Sometimes when you hear like a good scam, even in like the news, you go like, hats off, dude.
Yeah.
You pulled it off. Like Bernie Madoff, you're like, hats off, man.
Bernie Madoff is
hats
fucking
off.
fascinating. The most fascinating thing about Madoff is if you watch that latest one, that one that Netflix just made.
Such a good doc, yeah.
It's so good, but the craziest one, the craziest detail in that, because it answers questions that you always wondered that they just don't give you in like a quick news story, is sometimes they would go into his, like they'd show up and they're like, this shit just isn't adding up. And he was like, why don't you have a seat?
Yeah.
What do you need?
Yeah.
And he would, these are the investigators.
Yes.
That he knows he's like, defrauding basically.
Yeah.
And then he's like, what can I get you?
Yeah.
And they're like, he instilled so much confidence in the way that he would just be like, yeah, no, what else? What other questions do you have? That they'd go like, yeah, I guess this all adds up.
Yeah.
And it was just him not being like panicked.
Right.
Which is another thing that psychos
Oh,
are
they
good
don't.
at.
Their
The heart
hands
rate-
are like that.
The heart rate doesn't go like flutter and like, oh my God, am I in trouble? They're
Yeah.
like, what's up?
Like, this is what I've been living for. Yeah. They're stabbing with your pen and they're like looking at their iWatch, like still at 57 heartbeats.
57.
Yeah, don't feel a fucking
There's
thing.
psychopath fighter pilots that are like that. There
Yeah.
really are.
Yeah.
And race car drivers that are like, they're made like that, but they're not evil.
Right.
You know, you don't have to be evil to be a psycho. I think people
Absolutely.
construe
There's
that.
a lot of people, there's race car drivers, a lot of like very dangerous jobs. A lot of psychopaths go into.
Because you're just it's a personality disorder.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, if that person did something evil, they wouldn't feel bad about it.
Right.
But they're not necessarily looking to do that.
Right.
you
And
know?
they're probably not doing it for selfish reasons, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to fly fighter jets.
Somebody needs
Right.
to. Yeah. So hey, buddy, why don't you fucking gear up?
That
Sit down.
great line in Catch Me If You Can from Leonardo DiCaprio's character when he says, like the Yankees always won because the people were looking at the pinstripe. They were too mystified by the pinstripes.
Yeah.
It's kind of that thing with Bernie Madoff. It was just like, he was so cool about it. It was that mystique of confidence that you were just like, I guess.
And I got to tell you
guess
right
he's right.
now, when you watch this thing and you hear the stories about, he had the thing where he was like, I just don't have room for any. He had no soliciting. In other words, if you were like, I want to invest my money with him, he'd be like, I have no room for you, right? All this shit would have worked on me.
Would have worked out me too, yeah.
And when I'm watching him, if I sat down with this guy, I'd be like, wow, this guy's the fucking man.
Yeah.
And like, what an honor it is. He used to be the chairman of NASDAQ and like, I don't know how many boards. And, I mean, it's like, I would have just been like, sir, what should I do? With like, I would have been so respectful. And if he would have said like, you know what, Tommy, I'll do you a favor. If you want to move your money over to me, I'd be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
We got to send this money today.
At some point he was like chairman of the body that would be in charge of investigating him.
I think SEC, yeah. I think he actually worked there, I know he was chairman of NASDAQ at one point. And like, he just had that, that type of, the way that he just spoke, so much confidence, like, the same way the investigators are like, what should we do? And he's just like, what do you need?
And it's that thing too, that he's aware of the blind spots in humans.
He was chairman of NASDAQ 1991 and 93, and he sat on the SEC advisory committees.
Yeah, so those are the people who would investigate guys like him,
Yeah.
and he's like on the committee.
He's like, Carl, you talked to Carl today?
Yeah.
Tell him hi. I tell him I said hi, he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, he was so premeditated in that, placing himself there, and just the blind spots that he was aware of, that like if he made himself an exclusive club, like you couldn't get in, like nobody would question it.
Of
It's like,
course.
that guy, you can't even get in to see that guy, so,
Yeah.
And also he knew the greed of people. Because when I was watching that documentary, I was going like, who's the real criminal here?
Yeah.
Is it Madoff, or is he just more of a reflection of people's greed? Because you could easily go to talk to anyone at a dinner party who's also invested. They're like, dude, how are you getting those returns when the market's down? And they're like, that's not possible.
Not possible.
But nobody wanted it. Like, when you're winning, if they're giving you what you want for it, you're not going to.
And then,
too good to be true. You're like, it's too good for me right now, so I'm not going to ask any questions. You're like, you kind of got what you deserved then, didn't you, you greedy little pig?
There's three big whales that, they feature in the, who basically, they all knew what was happening, but they never spoke about it. And even he was like, we never spoke about it. But he knows that they knew, and they knew that they knew what he was doing.
Right.
And what we're saying is like, these are people who were like, when his pyramid scheme would Ponzi scheme would like run dry, he would just call up one of these guys and be like, do you want to invest some more right now? And they'd be like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll send you $200 million tomorrow. But then when things would pick up, they'd be like, I want all my returns right now. So he'd send them like 400, and they were earning billions of dollars.
Yeah.
And they were just like, oh yeah, I just thought I was investing. No, you didn't.
Yeah.
You knew exactly what you were doing.
You were part of it. And Chase, with that account where they just kind of looked the other way, the bank, they were like, we're just looking the other way.
Yeah.
There's all that money in there.
Bert and Tom, Tom and Bert. One goes topless while the other wears a shirt. Tom tells stories and Bert's the machine. There's not a chance in hell that they'll keep it clean. Here's what we call two bears, one cave.